Hey there, what's up everybody? In this video we're going to be taking a look at this umbrella that you see here for a backyard or patio. I know there are a lot of options out there on the market. This one we bought not too long ago on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below if you're interested. But we're really happy with it, and I wanted to share with you just kind of a general review, also some assembly tips, and very importantly, if you live in a moderately windy or very windy area, how you can secure the umbrella to the ground in a very inexpensive way, completely having to avoid a very expensive base that they sell as an additional item. So let's go ahead and get started. So right out of the box, this is kind of what it looks like, or I should say in the box. Everything is tightly wrapped. I'm particularly impressed with the fact that there aren't any nicks or scratches anywhere. Here is the main piece, the umbrella. Again, everything's wrapped pretty nicely upon delivery. And I'm just going to do kind of a visual inspection here with you so you can get an idea of what it looks like. Now this is the cloth fabric. I have no idea how long this is going to last out in the sun. I opted for a lighter color, I think for obvious reasons. If you have a darker color, perhaps dark colors stain or fade a little faster than a lighter color. So this is the 2-inch powder coated pole and all the parts. There's a cross base right there. It is not weighted. I'll talk more about that later. But seems pretty high quality. No tears, no rips or anything like that. So this is just kind of what it looks like. Now I'm unfolding it. Now this is a 10-foot umbrella. It's sizable, so you're going to want to have some space. The instructions say for you to, before you install it, turn it upside down and just kind of let it open. Make sure everything opens well, and as you can see it does. And it completely fills my living room. Back up here a little bit for you. There you go. There's another view of just the umbrella piece upside down and opened. Again, the fabric seems to be pretty durable. We have some plastic and some metal parts. And again, I'm just doing a visual inspection to make sure there's no chips or damage or anything like that. And to show you, of course, what it looks like. So the umbrella seems to be in working order. So with that visually inspected, we'll move on to assembling the base. Now, as I mentioned, the base is not a weighted base, which means you're responsible for essentially buying an extra part to weight this down. But it does come with a cross section here, a cross base for you, consisting of 2 bars like you see. Pretty simple to install. They've got the washers and the screws already included. So you'll put those bars together, and you'll take this 360-degree rotating swivel. Now I opted for an umbrella that does have a 360-degree swivel. That was important for our particular setup. So perhaps yours does not have this. And yeah, it's pretty simple. It's all the parts are included, and you just tighten those down, making sure the washers are, of course, on the nuts or the screws, and everything bolts down pretty tightly. So next up is this extension piece. This is going to be kind of the long neck that secures the cross base below to the umbrella. Again, installation and assembly here couldn't be easier. 4 screws, 4 washers, and you essentially tighten those down. Just plop them in the holes there, and it's as simple as that. FYI, I'm usually not a big fan of the included little wrench that they have, so I just grabbed my ratchet and put the appropriate setting on there and tighten that down. Just went a little faster for me. Now this piece, it looked like somebody there was a footprint on it. It arrived a little dirty, which I wasn't very happy with, but of course it's just something that I could kind of brush off, as you see I'm doing here. Yeah, no dents or damage, but it was kind of like, why is there a footprint on this one particular piece? a bit odd. Anyway, this is the setup here. We're going to be putting it on the other side of this planter out in our little side yard area. And getting back to the point on buying an additional base, those things can be very expensive, $60 to $100 as I've seen them online. So I had this idea of kind of, well, what if I buried it as shown here in the grass and attached it to the grass directly without having to have any extra pieces, without having to mess around with sand or water, right, to fill up these extra base tubs that they want you to buy. So that's kind of what I'm thinking, and I'm going to show you how to do that pretty soon. But let's just finish up the installation piece real quick, the assembly. It's got this sleeve that you can just simply put over that long base there, and this extra little piece that you'll kind of slide down, making sure the orientation is correct, of course. And that should secure atop a little insertion point for a little knob. And I'll show you that in just a second. But right now, once that little sleeve, both sleeves are on there, you can actually pick up the entire umbrella piece that we looked at before and slide it on top of this extension piece. And then it just kind of seats or sits down into that little sleeve as shown. And you could see the insertion, the little screw area there for your knob. So you plop that knob in and tighten that up, and that just makes sure the umbrella piece is connected to the sleeve. Okay. Now to finish up assembly, it's got this obviously the turn crank here, so you can lift up the umbrella and extend it out. So we'll install that right now. No tools needed. And then you'll have your handle operational. So this is what it looks like, obviously unfolded here. And let's take off the Velcro and give you a better idea of what this looks like. All right, it's got a really fantastic, I think, super simple, look at that. It just slides right up using that gliding handle. Very smooth. You could do that with like 2 fingers, I swear. Could not be easier. I was really impressed with that. There's no heavy lifting of any type. And look at this thing. It's as I mentioned earlier, a 10-foot umbrella. It's got a beautiful span. I'll also mention at this point that the umbrella does come with a cover. So instead of your umbrella just sitting out in the elements, the hot sun and the rain, it's got a protective cover included. And I really appreciated this kind of ingenious little design. It covers not only the umbrella, but the attached pole you can see there. It can slide right over the pole as shown. Now, for the first time that you set this up, you'll probably need a stepping stool, but this part's pretty neat. So in order to avoid a stepping stool every time, they've got this little like tent pole that they've included, just like you would put a tent pole in to hold up a tent, right? It slides up into this little sleeve, and by doing so, the cover maintains its integrity so that you can literally just lift the cover by the pole, and it just kind of sits atop and covers the umbrella. So you don't have to have a stepping stool to put the cover on, which is awesome. All right, so with assembly now complete, let's get back to how you can weight this thing down. It is very top heavy when it's open like that, and when you have moderate or severe winds, you definitely don't want this thing open. I don't care what umbrella you do have, an umbrella is not going to be able to sustain winds, okay? But the idea is that with, mild winds or when it's not in use, we want to hold this thing down. So I'm going to show you my system. I avoided, as I mentioned earlier, having to buy additional expensive sand-filled or water-filled base for this thing. So what I'm going to do is basically bury this cross section just slightly, and I'm going to attach the metal frame to the ground. Okay, so let me show you how I did that. I mapped out with some spray paint you saw there, kind of my general outline of where I need to dig, and I'm just going to gently, I'm going to reuse this grass, so I'm just going to gently kind of get underneath the surface there and just kind of pry it up. And I'll use my hand tool as well to take care, again, that I don't damage the grass, because I'm going to try to put this back as best I can when I'm done. Alright, so now I've got my grass removed. You can see that is my where that crossbar is going to go. Those four. Now, as far as how deep I'm gonna bury this, the bar here is about 2 inches, so I don't want to go deeper than 2 inches. And also, I have that 360-degree rotating swivel with the pedal here. So if I go deeper than 2 inches, my ground is going to get up into that, and I definitely don't want that to happen. So I'm going to put it at about 2 inches, and I'm going to tamp it down. I've just grabbed a piece of flat PVC pipe, and I'm just going to check here to make sure things are level. Obviously that is not level, so I'm going to add some more soil to the appropriate place. About right there is what it needs, and I'll tamp that down. Alright, so with things level, check this out. I'm going to just kind of drop this in. I'm going to make sure my pedal for my swivel is facing the correct direction, and this is generally where I want to put it. Again, I'm all level, and let me just test out to make sure things are secure. I don't want any gaps underneath, so that if I step on it, it might bend or anything. So I want it to be pretty secure and pretty firm all the way underneath that. Now, what I have here is a lock nut, and this is kind of a one-way nut. It allows it to go on, and then it doesn't come off very easily. So I've got a 12-inch metal pole, basically. I got this at my local hardware store. It's 3/8 of an inch thick and 12 inches long. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of angle them down as shown here, one pointing that way, one pointing this way, and I'm just going to nail them down. In order to do that, though, I need to widen out the holes that came in the umbrella cross base. So I'm going to grab a drill bit, make sure that it's the same diameter or slightly larger than my metal stake that I'm going to put into the ground, and I am going to drill out these holes. Now, this base already comes with a couple of holes pre-drilled, so that's nice. If you have a thinner, less thick stake, then you're welcome, obviously, to use that. I wanted to go with a 3/8. I felt like it provided me the extra integrity and strength that I wanted. So I'm just going to kind of dig that out. Obviously, you'd have the option of drill that out. Obviously, you have the option of drilling that out in your shop before you put it on the ground, but I'm kind of lazy, so I'm just drilling them out right there in the ground. And once they're all those holes are drilled out, I'm just going to kind of wash it off, all that kind of metal those metal fragments or whatnot, and I'm going to flip it over and just let it dry out in the sun. Now, once it's dry, you can see I have now some exposed metal that I created from drilling. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this rust inhibitor and spray it on there. Now, I don't care particularly too much about the color difference there on the front or on the bottom of it or on the top of it, but I am going to make some effort to cover it up and protect it so it's not just globbed on there. But I'm basically going to spray paint and cover up any bare metal, and hopefully that'll discourage any rust from happening in significant amounts. Alright, so with my bare metal now spray painted up and sealed up, I'm going to put that back into the little cutout that I had. And the next step is to take these stakes. Again, these are just some metal rods at the hardware store, and I'll just kind of get them lined up. And I'll put that lock nut on the top there, and that was the correct angle that I wanted. You saw how it slanted, right? I don't want to put it necessarily just straight down. I'm going to try to angle it just a little bit as shown, and then I'll hammer that down. And am not hammering this down all the way yet. I want there to be a little bit of play still. Again, I'm going to be checking my level. Now, what I'm doing here, I found these little rubber pads in my garage somewhere. You might want to use a washer, or if you have really anything that's kind of soft. I'm going to basically use this as a washer because I didn't want the metal from the lock nut to actually chisel up and chip the bottom of the paint on the crossbar, you can see. So this rubber pad is going to provide a little layer of protection between that lock nut that I just put on and the metal when I pound it all the way down. Obviously this step is optional, probably doesn't matter too much, but again, I didn't want any paint chipped, any of that powder coating to chip off down there. I wanted to maintain its watertight seal as long as possible. So with that first stake in, I'll go ahead and take the second stake and I'm going to point it in the opposite direction as the first stake. Okay, and that's just going to kind of create this open tent-like shape underneath the earth and making it a little more difficult if the wind's going to catch hold of it for it to kind of pull out everything. Okay, so this is what it looks like so far. I've got some of the stakes in. They're not tent stakes. Some of those poles staked in the ground. And I am going to check to make sure it's level. You can see there it's not quite level. Now, it won't be perfect because there is a little bit of play no matter what. Even if your base is level and secure, there's a little bit of play in the umbrella. But it's not significant. And I definitely want to make efforts to make sure that it is indeed as level as possible. So once I'm satisfied that everything is level, I'm going to take my other stakes there and I'm going to pound those into the ground. And as you're pounding, obviously, make sure you don't chip, you don't hit the powder coating. You don't want to, again, chisel that off. So I've got most of my stakes in, or all of my stakes in, and I believe most of them now are, oh, yep, let's pound those all the way down, get those nice and firm. So you see what I mean with that rubber little pad that I put on. If you didn't have that, that lock nut metal will kind of hammer against that powder coating and could provide an entry point for water and rust a little easier. So you can see here this baby is secure, super secure. This is what it looks like opened up. Again, it's a very top heavy umbrella. There's no way you can't have a base for it of some type. You can see today we've got some gentle breeze happening, nothing crazy. But this thing is now secure. Let me just rock it here for you. I'm using a good deal of strength just to see if there's any play. And now I'm going to stand on it for you. I mean, it is not moving at all. I don't know what else I could say. Here's another view of some slightly higher wind gusts. And just look at that pole. You can see the umbrella is moving from the wind a little bit. I would call it a light breeze. All right. Now it's time to put the grass back together. I mentioned earlier I'm going to reuse that grass. So I needed to thin it out a little bit and cut it to conform to the areas that needed to be covered. Now I'm not going to cover the top. I don't mind that being exposed. That's my own personal preference. Obviously, if you want to bury the whole thing, feel free to. Just again, don't cover up that 360-degree swivel pedal, right? But I'm just going to kind of put that grass back in and put down some of that soil and just keep that nice and wet, and that grass should cover over it. Now I have a little bit of contour. You can see it's not the prettiest there toward the edge, but over time I think that won't be an issue once that grass starts to grow again underneath there. And I might put some more soil up there, but as far as the other points, I think it looks fine. So anyway, this is it. You can see here we have a better shot of some light breeze, and that pole is definitely secure. And I hope this video has been helpful for you. It's a highly recommended umbrella. We're looking forward to enjoying more shade, a significant amount of shade out in our side yard under the hot summer sun. So thank you so much.